I slept with my professor for better grades. His wife found out and threatened me. But I know her secret one that could bring them both down. Posted by user, _scholarrecker. Posted in r/confessions. Posted, 26 days ago. Let me start by saying, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for sympathy either. I'm writing this because some secrets need to be out, and I need to let this one out before it eats me alive. During this time I learned that sometimes, survival turns you into someone you don't even recognize. I was never the girl who wore short skirts to class or flirted for attention. I was the girl who studied hard, pulled all-nighters with cold pizza and too much caffeine, and broke down crying in the library bathroom after failing another exam despite all the effort in the world. I have a learning disability. Nothing flashy. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to make certain subjects feel like trying to read underwater with the words slipping past me no matter how tightly I tried to hold on. Organic chemistry was the bane of my existence. I knew from the first week that it was going to break me. I couldn't keep up. The equations blurred. The reactions didn't make sense. The tutors helped some, but not enough. Accommodations bought me extra time, but not clarity. I was drowning and I knew if I failed this class, I'd lose my scholarship. If I lost my scholarship, I couldn't afford to finish school. And if I dropped out, well, game over. That was my reality. Enter Professor Mark Holloway. Mark was one of those professors you always heard about in whispers. Not the kind who slept with students. No, not openly. But the kind who enjoyed holding a little power over the room. The kind who noticed when your jeans fit tight or when you leaned over too far to pick up a pen. The kind who always gave you that look. Not a leer exactly, but something that made your skin prickle. He wore tailored suits to lecture. Always smelled like sandalwood and expensive cologne. Spoke softly, like every word was a secret. The girls in class either loved him or hated him. I was neutral. Until I wasn't. The plan didn't come to me all at once. It built over weeks, like a storm on the horizon. At first, I just started staying after class. Pretending I had questions. I'd linger while the lecture hall emptied out, asking about reaction mechanisms I didn't even understand. I started wearing tight tops and lip gloss I never bothered with before. It felt artificial, like putting on someone else's skin. But it got results. He noticed. At first, he stayed professional. Smiled a little too long, asked where I was from, what my goals were after graduation. The usual small talk, but with a charge under it, like a live wire humming between us. Then came the first real moment. It was a Wednesday. Late in the semester. The class had filed out slowly after a quiz, and I was the last one packing up. I stood. Hesitated. Then turned back toward his desk with a question I didn't need to ask. He looked up, eyes tired. But when I leaned forward on his desk, something shifted in his face. He didn't answer my question right away. Just looked at me, too long, too slow. And then, without a word, he stood, crossed the room and closed the blinds. The sound of the door locking echoed in the silence. My stomach flipped. My hands were sweating. This was it. I don't know what I expected. Something smoother maybe, or gentler. But it wasn't that. He didn't kiss me. Didn't say anything. Just pulled me toward him, hand over my mouth like someone might hear my excited sounds. It was fast. Rough. Mechanical and over before I could think. When it was done, he adjusted his tie, zipped up his pants, and sat on the edge of the desk like nothing had happened. You got what you wanted, he said. Now what? I left without answering. That night, I stared at the ceiling in my dorm, feeling like someone had peeled my skin off and left me exposed. I told myself it didn't matter. We were consenting adults. Legal. Private. No one got hurt. And most of all, I told myself I was in control. That was the first lie. Because once you start bartering your body for something, whether for grades, attention, or even survival, it stops being a clean trade. It stains you. We fell into a rhythm. 8 times a month, sometimes more. In his office. At hotels off campus. Once in the backseat of his car during a thunderstorm. Always quick. Always wordless. In return, I passed his class. Just barely, but enough to stay afloat. Enough to make it to the end of the semester. I started to feel numb to it. Like I'd turned off a part of myself just to get through. I could almost pretend it was normal. That is until I met Helen. His wife. That's when everything changed. I met Helen by accident the first time. It was a random Wednesday. Cold, gray, the kind of day where the sky feels like it's pressing down on your lungs. I had just finished another session with Mark in his office. My lipstick was wiped off, hair shoved under my hoodie. I thought I'd made it out unnoticed. But as I turned the corner in the campus cafe, there she was. Standing in line, looking down at her phone, a tiny smile tugging her perfect lips. She was blonde and elegant. She wore a turtleneck sweater and pearls, like she stepped out of a lifestyle blog. Mark once described her as dignified. He must have meant untouchable. I recognized her instantly. He kept a framed photo of her on his desk, next to his stupid bonsai tree. I'd stared at that face while doing things her husband would never confess. She looked up as I passed. Our eyes met. Just for a second. Nothing in her expression changed, but I felt something, like a pinprick of suspicion, or maybe something worse. Recognition? Did she know? Had she followed him before? I kept walking. My hands were shaking. The second time I saw her, it was much worse. Mark had invited me to their house one weekend while she was out of town for a conference. I didn't want to go, something about being in their space felt wrong. But I agreed anyway. We didn't even make it to the bedroom. He pulled me against the kitchen counter while an old jazz record crackled in the background. Afterward, he passed out upstairs, half-dressed, snoring into the pillow. I stupidly took this chance to wander around. Their house was so perfect it made me sick. Cream walls. Art books on the coffee table. Candles that smelled like rosemary and wealth. I peeked in rooms I had no business being in. I looked into her walk-in closet, their guest bathroom, even a drawer in the kitchen labeled stationery filled with handwritten thank you cards and custom stamps. That's when I heard the garage door. The sound sent a jolt up my spine. Footsteps. The rustle of a coat. A door opening. I panicked. She walked into the hallway just as I was stepping out of the guest bedroom, shoes in my hand, heart thundering in my chest. She blinked, surprised, but didn't raise her voice. Can I help you? She asked, an unkind sharpness in her voice. I gave her the first excuse that came to mind. I was here to interview for the au pair job. Mark said it'd be a quick chat. She tilted her head slightly, like she was filing that away. We don't have children, she responded. I know. He said it was for when you travel. Just errands. Pet care. House sitting. She said nothing. Just looked at me. Her eyes didn't blink. Her lips pressed together in that cold, polite way that makes your skin crawl. Well, she said after a pause, thank you for coming. We've actually filled the position. I nodded, cheeks on fire. Of course. Sorry for the mix-up. She watched me all the way to the door. I didn't breathe again until I was 3 blocks away. I told Mark about it later, how she came home early, how I had to lie. He laughed like it was no big deal. She probably believed you, he said, pouring himself a drink. Helen believes what she wants to believe. But I wasn't so sure. A few days later my worst fear came to be. She texted me. The message was short. No punctuation. Just a quiet threat. Stay away from Mark or I will go to the dean. I stared at it for 10 minutes. I thought about replying with something smart, something cutting. Instead, I went straight to Mark. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. This is bad, he whispered, over and over. This is really bad. He didn't yell. He didn't call her. He just sat there, eyes wide, like the walls were closing in. Then he told me it was over. No more meetings. No more tutoring. He had to fix things with Helen. Work on the marriage. Repair the damage. I begged him not to leave me hanging like that. I told him I needed to pass his class. I couldn't afford to fail now, not after everything. You'll have to figure something else out, he said. This is done. He wouldn't look me in the eye. That's when I realized the truth. I'd never been in control. I'd been a tool. A warm body. A liability. And I was being tossed aside. Something inside me snapped. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I smiled. Because I remembered something. I had an ace up my sleeve. On a rainy night a couple of weeks prior. Mark's lips stained with scotch. His voice was loose and low as he muttered something about Helen's guilt. She hit someone, he said that night. It was dark. She thought it was a dog. Turned out to be a kid. 15. Biking home from a friend's house. She left him there. Never told anyone. Just drove home and went to bed. She kept the car. She said it had sentimental value. Kinda sick, right? He chuckled. My blood had gone cold when he said it. I sneakily pulled out my phone and started to record. I hadn't believed him at the time. Thought it was drunk and rambling. But curiosity got the better of me. That weekend, while Mark was asleep again upstairs, I wandered into the garage. The Lexus was there. Covered with a paint-splattered tarp. It looked normal, at first. I pulled the tarp back. The front fender was dented inward. The paint chipped. And beneath the grime, I saw them, small, dark stains that had long since dried. Blood maybe? I wasn't sure. But I took pictures. I swabbed the spots with Q-tips I found in the bathroom. Bagged them in sandwich bags from their kitchen. I labeled everything. Taped it in an envelope and hid it behind a false panel in my apartment closet. Spy style. I didn't know what I'd do with it then. But now, I did. Helen had drawn her line in the sand. I was going to redraw it with fire. I waited until late after midnight. Then I sent Helen an email. Subject. You want to talk? Body. You're not the only one with secrets. Let's not pretend your hands are clean. I attached the photos of the Lexus. The scraped bumper. The dried stains. The audio was Mark's slurred confession, just enough to hear him say she hit someone. 15. Never reported it. I hit send and waited. Less than 20 minutes later, my burner phone rang. No caller ID. I answered anyway. Where did you get that? Her voice was sharp, tight. Not the calm, clipped tone I was used to. I was there. Your garage. Your car. You know which one. Silence. Threatening texts. Empty promises. You wanted to scare me straight, Helen? Congratulations. I'm terrified. Now what? She exhaled. I could hear her pacing, heels on wood. What do you want? She asked. That was the moment. The power shifted. I smiled into the phone. I want to pass the class. I want you to back off. I want no more threats. And I want it in writing. A guarantee. She didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, you want money? No. Not yet. She caught the implication. You'd blackmail me with this? Let's not call it that. Let's call it insurance. You have no proof it was me, she snapped. No timestamp. No police report. Nothing admissible. Maybe. Maybe not. But people love a scandal. A professor's wife involved in a hit and run? Combine that with your husband's inappropriate conduct toward a student? I bluffed, letting the words dangle. Let's just say the court of public opinion doesn't care about admissibility. Even I could hear the arrogance in my voice. Silence again. Then she asked, where do we meet? Neutral ground. Tomorrow. That coffee shop off Elm. 10 sharp. Come alone. And she did. She showed up in sunglasses and a trench coat like it was some Cold War spy movie. I was already sitting in the back booth, my burner phone in my purse, and a manila folder on my lap. She sat down without speaking. I brought a document, I said, sliding the folder across. You agree to leave us alone. I don't breathe a word about your accident. She gave it a once-over, lips pressed in a pale line. Is this it? She asked. Is this all you want? For now. I replied. She signed. No hesitation. Just one flourish of the pen. When she stood to leave, she looked down at me. You're very clever, she said. But you're not invincible. Be careful. I smiled. You too, I replied. When she left out the cafe, I slumped in my chair in relief. I couldn't believe it worked. That document? Probably not legal or binding. I found it online. I tweaked it in Canva, and printed it on heavy paper so it would feel real. I don't think she even read it. She didn't ask questions. She just backed off. Fear makes you stupid, I guess. After our meeting, things resumed with Mark twice a week like clockwork. Sometimes I would still see Helen when I was at their house. She doesn't speak anymore. Doesn't even glare. She just slips away, quiet and sunken-eyed, like she's trying to disappear through the walls. What does she do while I'm with her husband? I'm pretty sure she can hear us going at it. Honestly, I didn't care anymore. Something else happened during this time. Mark started to change. He got needy. More hungry for me. More passionate. Started brushing hair from my face and calling me love. He started saying he was thinking of leaving Helen. Said we could be happy together. Said he'd follow me anywhere. And that's when I knew, I had to end this quickly. I took his final exam the following week. The grade posted soon after and I saw I had gotten an A. Finally, this annoyance was over. I scheduled a meeting with Mark that same afternoon. Neutral ground. A off-campus coffee shop. I told him, simply, it was over. He didn't take it well. Called me ungrateful. Accused me of using him. Told me he loved me. That he felt more alive with me than he ever had with his wife. I didn't flinch. I reminded him, this was a transaction. Nothing more. I told him not to contact me again, and that if he tried anything, I had everything he ever told me. He sat there sobbing into his hands like a child, making a huge scene. I hurriedly grabbed my bags, and with my head down, I left. He didn't follow me out. Graduation came and went, and I was ready to start my life, but I had one thing I needed to do before heading home to job hunt. I had to turn Helen in. There's no way she should get away with what she did. I took all of the evidence I had about the hit and run and sent it anonymously to the police. I was never the hero in this story. I won't pretend I am now. I did terrible things, for selfish reasons, and I'll carry that. But Helen? She's the kind of person who kills a kid and goes to sleep like it didn't happen. No one deserves to walk away from that. I'm done with them. Done with the games. Sure, they can try to rope me into their mess later on, but it would be stupid to come after me. I was smart. I never used anything I owned to contact Mark. I was always incognito, used a bus pass I found on campus to get around. Took all contraceptives when we were done. Anything else that comes up I can easily explain away as innocent. It would be his word against mine. On top of that, he would lose his reputation and job if he told them about us. No. I don't think he will even mention our affair. I do think he will flip on Helen and wipe his hands clean. He was halfway out of that marriage already. Anyway, not my circus, not my monkeys. I'm looking forward to my future now with no more drama, no more BS. I just wanted to tell you my story. It was too insane not to. Even to a bunch of random anonymous people on Reddit. Goodbye, Reddit. I'm going back to being a quiet lurker now.